Welcome to the Hop Edition podcast, brought to you in association with the Malt Miller, your go-to choice for premium homebrewing ingredients and equipment. Whether you're a beginner starting out or an experienced brewer, the Malt Miller has got you covered. So for top quality products and customer service, jump over to themaltmiller.co.uk and tell them the Hop Edition sent you. We would also like to thank all our Patreons for their continued support with running and developing the pod. If you would like to become a member and gain access to exclusive perks and benefits, head over to patreon.com/the Hop Edition. Now it's time to get this pod started, so crack open a homebrew and enjoy the episode. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 127 of the Hop Edition podcast. Tonight we're exploring an increasingly popular beer style, certainly at least in terms of the homebrewing scene anyway. We might talk a little bit more about that in the commercial sense shortly. But we're going to be looking at hoppy lagers, and that's going to include a few different styles, some of the OG beers that kind of have set up the origin for some of the more modern takes on this, but moving that forwards to things like Italian Pilsners and New Zealand Pilsners, IPLs, West Coast Pils, and so on and so forth. So we're going to get into those a little bit, talk about how you can go about brewing them, what's the characteristics of those styles, and why we think they're good things to brew. So before we get into all of that, we will do our usual thank you to our partner sponsor, the Malt Miller, your premier supplier of all things homebrew. While you're over on their website, make sure that you check out their dedicated Hop Edition recipe section, where you can find a range of beers that are featured on this very podcast, including some of our own recipes, as well as some absolute belters from some of our guests, whether that be other homebrewers or commercial breweries, and so on and so forth. So those of you who are going to be following along live on the YouTube stream this evening, make sure that you drop a comment in, or if you have any questions along the way, let us know. Tell us what you're drinking, give us your thoughts, throw a bit of banter in there if you like, but just get involved and get engaged. And remember, we will have an after party at the end, so if anyone has been lurking in the background wondering about whether they'd like to jump in and join in on that after the live stream is finished, then do make sure you give that a go, because it's always good fun. So that's the intro. We'll do the usual round robin. What we drinking, fellas? What have you got in the glass? Let's go to Owen.
Good evening. How is everyone? Well, as it is the Hoppy Lager episode, I've brought along my Hoppy Lager. So this is a New Zealand Pilsner, which is been single decocted and made with Nelson and Hop Revolution blend.
Nice.
No dry hop, just Whirlpool. I think I put some Hop Revolution in the boil. The clarity's getting there.
Yeah, it looks
Clearing
great.
up pretty nicely. Look at that.
Yeah, looks
See my
pretty
ugly
bright.
mug through there. And we'll probably talk a bit about Love and Beer, because this is one of the beers that I brewed and
I
took
had
along.
that. That's
Yeah,
nice. Yeah.
some of the people watching may well have tasted that very
They
beer.
might have just tasted this beer, but I was smart enough to double batch. So I've actually, whilst I took a keg to Love and Beer, I also have a keg.
That's always a wise
for
choice
my-
with a New Zealand Pilsner.
I think so
Heartily
too.
agree.
And actually, for those that have listened along over the last probably 3 or 4 months, know that I've also talked about this beer before. I actually made it back in the summer, and this is the rebrew for it, and certainly going to be a beer that's going to get rebrewed a lot. I think it's absolutely becoming like one of my favourite styles.
Nice.
Zippy.
Yeah,
Ah, it's like in a nice zippy
Welcome
sort of...
to the New Zealand Pilsner fan club, Owen. It's
mate. It's just like, it's the perfect blend of like loving lager plus hoppy beers.
It's exactly
plus
that for me.
Something super crushable, really crispy.
Yeah, ticks all the
Great.
boxes.
It just ticks all the boxes. I mean, you'll never get me away from a hoppy double IPA, but for the session drinking, this is a absolute banger.
For breakfast beers, all the way with the New Zealand Pilsner.
But yeah, just in terms of the beer, like it's got like lovely aroma on the beer, like tons of passion fruit and a little bit of lime, just proper fruit salad.
Revolution blend is something
like
special as well, though, isn't it?
Fruit salad, sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Very, very crushable. Yeah, it's great. Love it.
Andy,
Nice. Yeah.
what you drinking?
I have got, if the camera will focus. Yep, I have got a lager that I did. This is the what do you call it? The wet hop Saz lager that I did from the garden, and it's got Pops Pale Malt as the base, just 100% Pops. I did it as a kind of nice, easy drinking lager, so it's like a 4.1. The idea is like a kind of 10-ounce lager type thing on tap in the house, with and then it had Pearl, was it whole leaf Pearl, is the kind of make sure the battering was right, and then a 20-minute addition of all the, I think it was like 700 grams of wet I got, and it's. The idea came from, I remember Dell did a beer and he used all pops in his lager. And I was like, this is really good. It's got that sort of Munich it was like a kind of Vienna Munich thing going on where there was lots of, the nice bready sort of sweet. And that's what I'm getting. I'm getting a kind of slight honeyed sort of bready sort of real nice kind of body to it, especially at 4.1.
Nice.
Which yeast did you use, Andy?
It was hopping pills.
Hopping pills, yeah.
Yeah, so I think
leave a bit of sweetness
that
in it.
10-12 sort of finish on it. I'm sure it was.
Lovely.
So yeah, and because it's got that slight chloride high, it just brings lots of malt sort of body to it. So it's great. Yeah, it's clearing up real nice.
Sounds good.
Yep. But your trick.
So I have got a German Pilsner in the glass with
Is this a Helles?
No, it is a more of a German Pilsner, so higher bitterness, more hopping in it. It's got a relatively new hop variety in there, which I'm not going to tell you any more about because I might be sending you guys this beer at some point for a little bit of a tasting episode.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'm going to say very little about this apart from the fact that I'm quite enjoying it.
Got it.
It's got quite a nice, crisp but slightly fruity finish. And I'm not going to say anything else in case it sort of leads you guys along as to what it is. But yeah, look out for. Might try and get it out in time for the next episode, actually, to you guys, and see if we can do that. But actually, that's gonna be next weekend, isn't it? So if I get my arse in gear tomorrow and pack it up, then I'll be able to send it down to you. But we're doing a hop test with this, so it's basically all single hopped, pretty standard German Pils recipe, brewed with 2124, which is 3470 or Weihenstephaner equivalent. So nice crispy boy, nice and dry, nice and bitter. But with a little bit of extra character from this new hop that I've put into it. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And we'll move on.
Mysterious.
Yes.
Yeah, I watched your latest video. Was it how to brew a Munich Helles?
The Helles,
yeah. That was good. That was a good video.
Oh, thank you.
I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, Trick, but
God damn it, Owen.
I know.
Yeah.
Mate.
Good tips. Because it was because I've been similar journey to you, Trick, where we were doing up the hill recipe, and it's great. It's
I mean that base recipe. I didn't go a mile away from what that was, but just
I think he uses
information.
I think he uses Barker pills, whereas you went pure floor
his stuff on the water profile. I think both of us have since just followed that pretty much to the letter. I've always just found with that style, is you just have to get that like bitterness to malt balance.
Just a nice,
Otherwise, it's just not quite right. But yeah.
So this is referencing back to the episode with Adam Makes Beer.
Yep.
Which hazarding a guess, that might be episode 70 something.
Wow.
You'd have to go back.
It's quite a while back. It's quite a while back.
Yeah.
But he gave us
Bre-
the full recipe for his Helles, didn't it? And
Yeah, the cartridge one.
yeah, you've done versions of that, quite a few versions of that, Andy, already, haven't you?
Yeah,
I've
I've
been
never brewed
playing
it,
around
actually.
with it.
Yeah,
it's
I don't think I was
excellent.
on the podcast. I think I missed that one.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's part of the reason why perhaps I haven't brewed it. But sounds like a good recipe.
Yeah.
Do with you one of you sharing it when you get a chance.
It's on Tricky's video. Go watch it.
Well, that's a version of it. That's not
Just
quite.
Throw me a bone. Send me the root father.
That's not quite exactly the same as the original Adam Makes Beer one.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
we definitely would have published that one somewhere.
Oh, there we
I
go.
think.
Liam says episode 60.
Episode 60. Thanks.
Anyway, before we get into the hoppy lagers, we are going to talk a little bit more about Love and Beer, because we were all there, obviously, and we saw quite a few of our listeners, and
Yep.
we had quite a few people who were kind of on the bar team with us as well, all dressed up with the Hop Edition t-shirts and everything on. So,
Yeah, we looked
first
good,
of all,
didn't
massive thanks to all the people who came along and helped us out on the day, and a few people who brought beers as well to help stock up the bar that we were all contributing to.
legends.
So we were sharing a bit of a bar space with the Malt Miller, and we had beers from Owen and various other people who
Brett,
listened to the pod.
Steve.
So yeah, Brett, Steve, and was there anyone else who put beers up on there?
No, I think it was just the three of us.
Okay. All good, all really good beers though. So yeah, again, massive thanks to everyone who helped out with that and put
Yeah.
a shift in on the bar and everything. But what did you guys think of it? Because it was your kind of first experience of
Yeah,
Love
it
and
was
beer,
my
wasn't
first
it?
go.
I'd done the previous year, which was very different actually. And
Yeah.
it felt like going to almost like a new event this time, because different venue, different setup, different kind of integration of the homebrew element with the actual event itself, all in a positive way. I'd like to add as well. I felt like it was an improvement on last year. Not that they had the choice to go back to the old venue, as it's basically closed down, but
Yeah.
that probably wasn't down to us, taking all the customers away with the homebrew last time at all. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, what did you guys think about it?
Yeah, I mean it was absolutely bouncing, wasn't it? I mean, what was it, about 400 people?
It was very busy.
When
yeah,
it got
was
going.
nice.
It was
Yeah.
absolutely rammed.
Yeah.
There's like a real buzz about it really felt like a good night out.
Yeah.
And it was a great venue. I think the Beer Merchants tap has obviously got a fantastic bar, huge range of beers. Obviously, they had all the collab beers on that Johnny and Brad had brewed with various breweries. But there was an outside space. We were really lucky with the weather, and then of course the homebrew was nicely spread out. Some really great guys that we met from various homebrew clubs. So I think the Lab guys were very cool, and also the guys from Bristol, who I think it was the Homebrew Collective. I think might be what they're called.
Yeah,
I'll have to look it up.
maybe.
But they were super cool as well, and some of the quality of the beer, the quality of the homebrew that I tasted was.
I
Really
didn't have
excellent.
a bad beer on any of the homebrew bars as far as I can remember.
Midlands was there. Midlands craft
In fact, they were all of a standard that I would say was competing, if not on a par with commercial beers that were available
yeah.
from the main
I
bar
would
itself.
agree.
So
All the homebrew was amazing. Like there wasn't. I didn't have a single bad homebrew actually.
yeah,
Yeah, definite. It was really
was all-
good.
Awesome, wasn't it? It was a lot
Yeah.
of fun, and it was just great to be able to chat with other homebrewers, like-minded people.
great to meet quite a lot of people who were listeners to the podcast and stuff who we'd not met before, who hadn't been on after parties or anything, who came up and sort of had a chat with us, and met quite a few people who potentially get in touch with to help out with a few things as well. I think there was a chap there, I've forgotten what his name was now, but there
You
was a chap
tapping up
who-
guests?
Yeah, well, I think Owen was doing more of the guest tapping up than me, to be honest, but had some really good conversations with people anyway, and got a few ideas going for different things and topics that we might be able to look at. So
Yeah,
it's great.
That's great. Yeah, I was really pleased to have seen Tom Ray from
Oh,
Bull
Bill
House.
House. Yeah,
He
he
let
was
me know he
cool.
was coming down because they did a collab beer with Howling Hops, who I think
I had
were
that.
very, very local to the venue we were at. So I had a chance to chat with Sam from Howling Hops. The Crisp were there. WHC were there. Anyone else like sort of had stands? I'm not sure I got round to all of them, but there was a
Can't
hop
remember
grower
any other
there
ones,
as
to be
well. Was it
honest.
Charles Fareham? Maybe was there.
I can't remember seeing.
Don't remember seeing anyone from Charles Ferrum there, but I may have just missed their stand
Yeah.
completely, to be honest. So
Yeah, so that was really cool. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was just
Um,
great to just get together and just drink homebrew and then try all the cola beers that Johnny had been doing as well. And we had the Polliner on
Yeah.
the oak barrel. That was beautiful. That was pure
there was
honey.
some absolute bangers, to be fair, across
Mm-hmm.
all the bars.
I mean, after watching the dude try and tap the
The spigot thing.
what was it? It wasn't Polena, was it? It was Augustina.
Yeah, it was Augustina. Yeah.
Augustina in the wooden barrel.
Oh, was it
I watched him
Augustina?
trying to tap that for quite a while and making an absolute mess all over the
It kept
floor.
just like popping out, didn't it? It was like
Yeah.
hammer it in and then sort of and like shoot out across the bar. I
It was a lot of
don't
fun.
know how it works, but I was expecting it to have that, just fucking jet of beer coming out of it at one point. But it seemed like when the tap popped out, it sort of sealed itself after a second or two. But yeah, it still
Wow.
made quite a mess. So
Yeah,
all
I mean,
good
to be
fun.
fair, like it does look quite difficult to do. Not
Yeah.
the easiest thing. But actually, that Augustina was
It was
amazing.
Polliner. No, it was Polliner. Brett says as well. I'm sure it was
Was
Polliner.
No, I thought it
Yeah.
was Augustina.
No, it was Polliner.
Oh, fair dues.
Well,
I was
Yeah.
sure it was Polliner.
after
Right.
drinking a few gallons of homebrew and commercial beer, we can be excused for forgetting that.
Brett's
That was one of the first beers that I had as well.
It was just Southeast
alluded
London.
to my haphazard journey back.
That
to
would
the
be a good
hotel.
idea if you knew anywhere that you actually went during that little trip
Yeah,
around.
absolutely no
wouldn't it?
idea. I did take a really strong attempt to wander around southeast London. I
Lewis
may
is
have
Palmer.
enjoyed the homebrew a little bit too much, and my 15-minute walk back to the hotel took me approximately
3
about
hours.
2 hours.
2 hours. Aye.
about 2 hours. Not too sure where I was going, and unfortunately, trying to follow along with Google Maps was apparently not computing. particularly
Google
well.
Maps fucked you over, didn't it? It was Google Maps, yeah.
I'm not sure it was Google Maps' fault, to be quite honest. Rick. Yeah, I think.
Or you walking in the opposite direction to what Google Maps was telling
Absolutely no logic at all. I mean, the
You're going
smart
to
thing would
Tower
have been
Bridge,
just to call
Premier
an
Inn.
Uber, just press the Uber button. But no,
Wow.
fancy the walk. At least it sobered me up somewhat. So there you go. Had some great food as well. There was
Jerk chicken.
I had a really, really good vegan burger before everything kicked off. That was pretty tasty, which was at the venue. And then I had some super tasty Jamaican jerk chicken from
Yeah.
a vendor just around the corner.
That was the
um,
best.
That was absolutely awesome.
Yep.
Nice.
So it was a lot of fun. I really, really do hope that Johnny, Brad, and the Malt Miller and the Beer Merchant app are going to do the event again next year.
Yeah.
And I would definitely recommend anyone that is listening that is able to make it to London get along, because it is a super fun event.
Well, it seemed like a roaring success from where we were standing, so hopefully that was the case for everyone else. And they will be keen to do it again. But obviously it does depend a little bit on how, the venue view it in terms of, I guess, commercially how successful it was for them and all the rest of it.
It
was
seemed,
busy enough.
It seemed like their
Well,
bar was like 3 deep at any
Yeah.
given point in
It didn't
time.
seem like there was any lack of people buying commercial beer, and
No.
they obviously sold a fuckload of tickets for it. So like
Yeah.
the organisers and Malt Miller must have done okay out of it. So I'm
I totally
struggling
dig
to
it.
see anything where it would have been,
Yeah.
too much of a downer on it. But
Yeah, and I think
Interesting.
it worked well with the tokens.
Yeah.
How they kind of balance the bar
Yeah.
and the homebrew.
And that was
Um,
one of the big improvements on the previous year, because it did feel like there was two separate events going on almost last time. And I think it did definitely, unwittingly distract from the commercial bar when there was a massive tent full of completely free beer that people could just go in there, not spend any money at all, versus go to the commercial bar and pay for it in there. So they were
Yeah.
quite separate as well, just physically speaking, because it was like a marquee in the car park essentially, and then you had to sort of walk through the brewery to get to the commercial bar. So it felt like we were properly integrated into the venue and the event itself this time round, which I thought was really good. And fair enough having the token system when it's like, well, we've got to sell some commercial beers as well while we're here. So I thought it was done well.
it was, and actually, I think one of the most fun parts was obviously meeting new people. I love meeting new people and just sort of chatting, and also just being able to serve some of like my beer to just random people, and just getting really really positive feedback.
Yeah.
That was just like like brewers often sort of talk about kind of people coming in drinking their beer, and you can see that they're really enjoying it and just getting a real kick out of that. And it was that kind of feeling, and it was really fun. Really
It's
fun.
very very different when it's not just giving it to friends and family, isn't it? To when you're
Exactly.
in an
Yeah.
actual like bar environment, and it's like people have paid to come here and they're drinking this, and they're not under any obligation to say it's nice or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
when you
No.
do get that positive feedback, it definitely hits a bit different.
Because you've had that a few
Um,
times now, Tricky, with the collab
well,
stuff you've done.
yeah, a couple of weeks ago at the Oktoberfest
Yeah.
and that was quite a different one as well, because it was like the first time I've sort of seen that many people drinking like my beer all at once. You just see all these people
Yeah.
with steins, and you could tell exactly which ones had it because it was the only like amber
Yeah,
dark
dark.
beer there as well.
Yeah.
So just like, oh look, there's actually fuckloads of people drinking it. This is awesome, and nobody's spitting it out on the floor yet. So
That's the crucial bit.
Yeah,
isn't it? And
exactly.
kind of serving the beer and not telling them like, oh, I made this, and then just going like trying it and go, oh, this is really good. And then you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I made it. And then, but it's more fun the fact that you can then talk to them about how you made it, and people having genuine interest in that, rather than because they're predominantly homebrewers.
yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. It was a good event. So next year I'll just do my best to maybe drink a little bit less.
It was so funny. You were so like I remember on the day you were so like stressed and just dead like strict and like, right, you guys make sure you're down and like telling us off and all that if we're drinking too much, and then you obviously just went turbo at the end.
Yeah, I'm gonna blame the combination of drinking the Baron Double IPA and then following that up with the Fuller's Vintage Ale, which was 8.4%.
That'll do it.
Classic.
That'll
Owen.
do it.
Things went pretty rapidly downhill after those two beers. So there you go. But it was pleasing to see all the beer went.
Yeah, it did.
And
Yeah.
I think we kind of landed at about the right beer to take. So that was good. So yeah, great success. I think it was a bit of effort to organise, but it was fun nonetheless. So if anyone was there, I hope you've enjoyed the stickers that you got and the key rings, and if you were really lucky in helping out, a free T-shirt.
That's right. Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Shall we talk about hoppy lagers?
Yes.
Why not?
Let's go. So when we think about hoppy lagers, then what styles of beer what are we talking about? And we've already touched on New Zealand Pilsner.
Yep.
What else are we talking about?
I think anything from the homebrew side of things, it's when I move away from noble varieties, anything spicy or whatever. As soon as I go to anything sort of New World or American or that sort of thing, Or even like when we did the Farms episode and we were the new Farms hops.
Mm.
That's where I'm thinking, right, this is now in Hoppy Lager territory where you're getting more kind of like citrus notes or
Yeah.
yeah,
In the modern sense, I think that's definitely a valid point to make. We do kind of have to tip our hats to the OG styles that kind of set up hoppy lagers from the beginning. So you've got your Czech and German pilsners are the obvious examples of that, and in that case, we would be talking more about the noble varieties and so on. But they are the original kind of more
yeah,
highly hopped lager styles, and a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about following that is essentially a modified. But I think it probably more so the German pilsner. I think probably because they're a little bit hoppier anyway. Generally speaking, I would say than Czech pilsners maybe. I don't know if you guys would agree with that, but I think a lot of the more modern styles are essentially a kind of modified form of that, which might have brought in those modern hops like you're talking about. Andy, would you guys agree on that?
Yeah, I think Andy's made an interesting distinction, right? Which is, your more noble hops are
I'd
going to
say
be
they're
falling into a
traditional.
more sort of classic lager
Yeah,
archetype, right? Whereas as soon as you start to combine the style of lager into more different characteristic hops
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
that are going to be bringing more like fruit forward flavors and aromas, as opposed to your noble hops, which are predominantly going to be spicy, earthy, floral,
Yeah, true.
potentially herbaceous. That's kind of an interesting sort of old world meets new world kind of combination, and to some degree even taking noble hops and new world hops and putting them
yeah.
together in really interesting ways.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily sure that it kind of defines what a hoppy lager is, but I think it is an interesting dimension of what hoppy lager could be or is becoming. I don't know.
Yeah,
What do
I
you
mean,
think?
interestingly, one of the styles that we've got on the list, or the first one after Czech and German pilsners, is almost like a kind of crossover between the more modern take that maybe Andy's got in mind and the more traditional styles like Czech and German pilsners, which is Italian pilsners, and they've kind of become more. People have become more aware of them in recent times. Certainly, in terms of them being like more prevalent on the kind of craft beer scene, but actually, in terms of like the original beers from Italy, they've been around for quite a long time in terms of when they've first been brewed. So apparently, people have been doing these sorts of beers in Italy since the 1990s. So
Okay.
uh, can't say it. Birrificio Italiano is one of the breweries I think that's noted for that, and there's a Tipo, I think it's Tipo Pills or something like that, which has been around for quite a long time. Let me just check. I think I had some notes on that somewhere. Yeah, Tipo Pills was the original one from that brewery, but they're essentially, if you want to like boil it down to the kind of core essence of what the recipe is, they're essentially a German pilsner that's got dry hopping in it,
Yeah.
and normally still done with your noble hops. So your Hallertaus, Tettnangs, Sars, that sort of thing. But it's basically that. It's German pilsner sort of recipe, but you're adding a sort of fairly modest dry hop on top of it. So you're trying to get a real, like,
Have you guys ever
quite
done that?
potent. I've
Dry hop with
brewed.
noble?
I have, yeah. I've basically brewed a clone recipe of an American beer that I never realised at the time was essentially based on Italian Pilsner. So I've kind of inadvertently made an Italian Pilsner in the past, which was basically doing a clone version of Firestone Walker's Pivo Pils,
Okay.
which is basically a dry hopped, like German Pilsner style recipe made with sapphire hops, and this was where I sort of got into sapphire hops from, was doing this beer originally, which I've used quite a lot since.
Yep.
So it's a slightly more modern take on it, but essentially the core of that recipe was them trying to sort of recreate this kind of Italian Pils thing. It's
Get more aroma.
it's a
hop
German
aroma.
German Pilsner recipe with a very modest dry hop. So I think the typical recipes are like, maybe like an ounce or two of hop. So you're not talking about a huge dry hop. That's in a homebrew sort of standard brew length quantity, obviously. And yeah, it's just trying to get like really push that sort of like floral aromatic note from those hops. And in some cases, the dry hop can help you to get a little bit more of maybe the slightly sort of fruity or citrus kind of character out of them, I think. So with stuff like SARS, you might find that you get a little bit more of that kind of like lemony aromatic off of it when you're doing that sort of little bit of dry hopping at the end. They can be a little bit more hazy as well because the dry hopping, so it's not completely out of style if they have a light sort of haze to them, but otherwise you're expecting basically a very crisp sort of German Pilsner with a lot of hop aromatics and a little bit of extra hop flavour on them. And you do see them a little bit more often now in like UK craft beer breweries. So Duration do a pretty decent example of it called Cutting Grass or something like that, I think it is.
Cutting Grass, yeah.
Is that the right name?
Yeah, it's a really good
Duration
beer,
does, yeah.
Which is a really decent one.
It's dry hopped, isn't it?
So yeah, not the place that you'd necessarily expect to be pushing the boundaries of sort of hoppy lager development, but apparently the Italian Pilsner is one of the sort of maybe like a gateway style to the sort of more modern hoppy lagers that maybe we're going to talk a bit more about in the future. But yeah, pretty straightforward to develop a recipe for that. Just take your sort of standard German Pilsner type recipe and stick a dry hop in it, and that's your Italian Pilsner. They don't really have specific kind of Italian hops or even malts necessarily for that. So
yeah, so Cutting Grass by Duration is an Italian Pilsner, seasonal.
yeah,
And they dry hop with Sapphire and Mittelfrüh.
yeah.
And in fact, if you are interested in hearing more about that, go and listen to our pretty early episode with Duration, where Bates talks.
We did drink that beer on that podcast, actually, didn't we?
I think
I've
we
had
did,
it.
actually, yeah.
I've had it, yeah. Cutting
Yeah.
Grass, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really nice beer.
Lemon or
I-
something.
I didn't realise it was only
Yeah, it was quite
seasonal.
lemony.
I thought it was a core beer. So I don't know when
I
they.
think Chris loved it at the time.
Oh, Chris was all over it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was loving it. But I can't say I think I've ever dry hopped with noble
Noble,
hops
yeah.
before. But certainly give it some thought in future.
Mm-hmm.
It's
for
normally
sure.
it's like Motueka or something I end up dry hopping if I'm gonna do.
Well, I guess it's that sort of noble hop derivatives or kind of subsequent hops, things like I don't
I
know.
wonder if I have.
And
dry hopped.
Motueka is New Zealand SARS, isn't it? So you
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
I mean, obviously it is a very
Yeah.
different hop with
Worlds
that
apart.
New Zealand
Yeah.
terroir getting into
Pure
the
lime.
mix. But
Yeah.
it's not a million, miles away from it. It's got that heritage.
Yeah, but then there's some of those sort of German hop varieties, isn't there, that you could use, like is it Huelmelon?
Oh,
Yeah, definitely. Some of the
um,
newer varieties where you do have a little bit more of that fruity character pushing through. Mandarina Bavaria.
Mandavina, yeah.
What's the good one?
What's
the one
that's quite whiny? Bit
Yeah.
like Nelson.
Yeah.
Hallertau Blanc.
Well
Hallertau
done.
Blanc
That's
would
that.
be a good.
That one is excellent.
I think that could make a great little dry hop for a
Yeah,
Italian Pilsner or something.
definitely.
Oh, the Citra Pils had dry hop. Yeah. I'm just trying to think if I've done much dry hopping, but yeah. Amarillo, Citra, Simcoe. Okay.
Yeah, maybe something like a Lebelski. Is it Lebelski?
That's the Polish SARS.
Polish one.
Yeah.
Polish sauce, yeah. Yeah, that's
Then
cool.
lager.
But what about the
It's dry hopped.
other hoppy beer styles? So stepping away from your traditional OG hoppy lagers,
Should we
What
just go to
about
your
more
favourite?
like New World hoppy lager styles?
Well, yeah, the New Zealand Pilsner's a good one. Good one to look at.
Yeah.
And essentially, again, sort of German Pilsner recipe, pretty much, but bung all New Zealand hops into it. But particularly for me, anyway, New Zealand Pilsner's got to have Nelson in it in some form, whether that's part of a blend or not. Motueka does work really well. You can do it
Yeah.
with all Motueka, but I think you
I
sort
have.
of you
The lime lager
you
one
lose a
is-
little bit on that like gooseberry, really bright sort of grapey gooseberry kind of flavour that you get from the Nelson, which I think just works so well in that beer style. Ruaka's great as well.
I'm just looking at the one I did, and it was all Saz in the boil, and then it
Yeah.
was Motueka dry hop, and it was like
Yeah.
And you don't need to go big.
Well, you can combine
And the dry
obviously
hop.
some noble hops, and that's something. Again, I think with a lot of these styles we're going to talk about, there is the option to keep some traditional noble hops in the boil maybe, and then do later hops with the modern varieties, and I think that can actually really render some nice results because it
Yeah.
keeps that sort of spicy,
Spicy.
kind of clean, crisp flavour in there, as well as giving you some of that bright kind of fruity or citrusy notes as well.
It kind of almost will remind you that it's a lager.
Yeah, exactly that.
And I think, we'll talk a bit more about that later on when we're going to start getting into kind of how to brew a really good hoppy lager and some of the tips and stuff, is being mindful of trying to keep the essence of it being a lager
Yeah,
and not getting lost. It's almost a, deft hand is
Definitely.
required.
I mean,
Not 300-gram dry hops.
yeah, and New Zealand Pils is a really good example of that, because it's, if you do throw 200 grams of Nelson into the dry hop, it's like you're not going to be able to tell that that's a lager anymore after doing that. At best it's going to taste like a sort of pale ale that's been heavily hopped. But I mean, again, we'll talk maybe a little bit more later on about the specific recipes and things like that. But there's people who might prefer not to dry hop it at all, and Owen's made a fantastic example without any dry hop. I generally do dry hop mine, but I'm looking at like 2 ounces, so 60 grams ish, pretty much tops for a 23-litre batch.
Yeah.
It's not a lot, but
Nah.
that still has a big impact
Massive.
on it. I think the effect of dry hopping when you're putting it into a beer that's quite clean and crisp anyway is pretty dramatic compared to like what you would get if you're putting into, I don't know, like a really hefty 6.8% IPA, for example, that's got a lot of hops in it and adjuncts and all of that.
And the yeast
sort of
flavours
stuff
as
generally.
well, like the
Yeah.
fruity yeast flavours. So you
That's
don't
it.
need to fight all that. It's
No.
very delicate, and it'll present very well with just, like you say, 50-60 grams type thing in a
or
21,
even less than
22
that,
litre
like
batch.
an ounce, 30 grams might be enough. So
I mean, personally, I'd sort of maintain that actually, like, Whirlpool can deliver a pretty significant aroma and
no, it definitely can.
and particular flavour without the necessity for dry hopping at all.
Well, actually, this beer I'm drinking now, I didn't dry hop it because I've come around to the idea that when I'm doing lagers that I want to do a hop tester with, being careful not to reveal too much again on this one, that I'm not generally going to dry hop a lager unless it is like a New Zealand Pils or a West Coast Pilsner. So if I want to test it as a sort of lager hop, I'd rather just, up the Whirlpool a bit and make it like a German Pilsner. But this has still got bags of hop aroma and flavour to it. So it's not like, there's that old thing of like people would say, oh, your dry hop is just aroma, that's all it delivers, and then your Whirlpool will be flavour or whatever. And it's like, well, it's not. There's there's not this like distinct cutoff where you put the hop in at a certain point and then it only delivers this one aspect. That's just nonsense. But yeah,
No, it's sort of what provides a bit more emphasis. Is kind of probably the point there, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's interesting. I think traditionally the German breweries wouldn't ever consider dry hopping, but they will use hops and layer hops later into the boil, which obviously you can think about doing with, and you would typically do that with a number of those hoppy lager styles. But the whirlpooling as well, I can't imagine, your traditional German breweries doing that. But they may be putting in hops at flame out. So, to a degree, kind of hop stand versus whirlpool. It's a fairly similar kind of idea, isn't it?
I think they'll avoid late hopping altogether because it's not about the hops with German lagers, is it? It's more about the malt, really.
No. At most, I would have thought that they'd be possibly putting in kind of maybe 15-minute, 10-minute editions, possibly.
Maybe with the exception of some of the German Pilsners, because I reckon they might have a fairly hefty late edition or sort of flame out edition, maybe. In some cases, not all of them.
Who knows?
But definitely not so much for your malty, hells and things like that. So.
No, that's going to be 60-minute, 30-minute edition. That's probably about it, isn't it? So we talked about the IPL, the India Pale Lager. We talked a bit about that. The cold IPA, which is
is that an IPL?
Somewhat controversial. Yeah.
Reinvented name for what is essentially an IPL. So the idea being there that you kind of effectively making a modern style IPA, but fermenting it with lager yeast to get a kind of crispier.
I did a whole video basically moaning about this and sort of saying that it's just
it's just marketing.
It's just a non-style. But it did sort of it did kind of rub me up the wrong way a little bit because like IPLs have actually been around for ages, like very early into the sort of craft beer sort of scene coming about. People started doing basically heavily hopped lagers and things like that. We were talking about Camden Town before the pod, and they did an India Hell's lager like way back in the day when they were fairly new brewery, and that must have been early 2000s, I think.
Yeah,
when it was literally just a super hoppy, IPA brewed as a lager, which is that's what an IPL is. But cold IPA came, and I'm kind of glad that this sort of term seems to be disappearing fairly rapidly as a kind of fad brewing style.
Yeah, so cold IPA
gone the way of your like brute IPAs and things like that. But it was the brewery that originally came up with this, put stuff out sort of saying that nobody knew how to do it properly until words to these effects, until we came up with this revolutionary method of doing cold IPA, which is basically just doing exactly the same thing, but they brewed it slightly warmer and no apparent reason or justification for that. They're just like, we're going to call it a cold IPA but brew with lager yeast at a warmer temperature, so the name doesn't even make sense.
So 3470.
Anyway, yeah, probably 3470, and they're going to put more adjuncts in it in terms of like flaked corn or rice or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's basically it.
Right.
So it's like,
yeah.
So really, all you're doing is making the base a little bit more like an American like light lager, and you're just brewing it a bit warmer. But it's like that's really not like enough distinction for me to say that's some kind of amazing new style of beer that you're doing. I don't know. I mean, I was just of the opinion, like, I'm sure that there's people who've been making IPLs who've done very similar things to that, or
I'm sure
they've just called it a hoppy lager or whatever, and they've not sort of claimed that this is now a cold IPA or whatever. It's just
I've actually got some flaked corn
nonsense.
Flake corn in the house. Maybe I could do a cold IPA.
You should, Andy.
Go for it.
And then hang your head in shame.
and then call it by its proper name.
IPL.
IPL.
Yeah,
I guess IPL's gotta be sort of hitting the mark in terms of the higher bitterness.
Yeah.
Possibly a slightly bigger ABV. It's gonna carry the hoppiness. Yeah.
Is this where we get to the nipple territory and then the bitterness comes down? Is that what we're saying now?
We'll see. I mean, we're talking
perhaps.
talking of sort of bigger bitterness, we also have the West Coast Pilsner, which I guess to a great degree is essentially an IPL. It's just
It is really, yeah. I mean,
perhaps leaning more into that West Coast IPA vibe. So sea
Yeah.
hops is going to be more bitter,
Pain.
but it
Yeah.
is it's a subdivision of IPL.
very
Right.
much so. I mean, it's all of this is a little bit of a moot point, to be honest, because there's not really any of these things that are clarified in terms of style guidelines, apart from New Zealand Pilsner, actually, which is kind of interesting because
Yeah.
the BJCP have categorised New Zealand Pilsner and given it proper style guidelines, but
It's because it's so good.
there's no there is no category for IPLs or West Coast Pilsners or anything like that, so you can't really enter them into a competition unless it's something like the Beer Balls one, where they kind of created their own category for it specifically because they knew people would want to enter that beer, but it's not in the general guidelines. I mean, I know you can enter obscure styles and sort of just tell them what it is, but you're generally not going to have much success doing that because they don't really know what to do with them if they haven't got guidelines to follow. But so
Availability.
you can argue about it, but there's no defined styles anyway, so you can basically call it what you like and brew it however you want.
Well,
It's
we
probably-
should spend the next 45 minutes debating it.
No.
Yeah, let's do
No.
that.
No, it's interesting in the comments. So a lot of I actually put a thing in the post for our socials, and it says, "Oh, try and get a hoppy lager to drink along with." And the amount of comments we've been getting back, where people are just like having an absolute nightmare.
I couldn't
trying to
get
find-
anything myself, and I went to the proper local bottle shop. Nothing remotely
Right.
fitting the
Did you-
description in there. Nothing in Sainsbury's.
Did you see Dylan Jones' comment? He spent an hour and 40 minutes round trip to a decent bowl shop, and all he could get was
The Wild
Yeah.
Horse.
local.
I
brewery.
actually, because I knew Wild Horse was the brewery's not far from him. Well, it is quite far, but not that far.
Yeah.
It's still Wales. But I went on theirs because I'm pretty sure they did an IPL type, and they've got a West Coast Pilsner that they had on. So I think he says he managed to get that, but from the bottle shop that's local, but not so local.
Yeah. So I would say hats off to Dylan for
Yeah.
pushing the boat out to try and get
Yeah, good
a
effort.
hoppy lager. Lewis in the chat said he gave up and just bought Spartan. But he loves German beer, so no
Yeah.
surprise there.
Yeah, could be worse.
Yeah, it could be a lot worse for sure.
I
So
managed just to quit. Up in Scotland, it seems to be totally different. Where up here we've got a few. I think one of them just on just now is like Williams. It's like Shea Guava. It's like a kind of real fruity sort of lager sort of thing. And then I've got, is it the Caesar Augustus? And then West. I managed to get a can of West, Wild West it's called, and I think that's got Chinook and stuff like that in it. It's quite orangey. So there's a few up here that seems to be in, constant production.
Well,
But then we've got a lot of lager breweries up here as well. So
Yeah.
that's
it's
the tenants
interesting.
effect, do you reckon,
sorry,
Andy?
what?
Do you reckon it's the tenants effect?
I think it could also be that they're used to producing lagers. They've got tanks available to spend the time it needs to. Because I think we talked about this before the pod, where it was like actually the turnaround time on a lager's a lot longer, and so people will just go, stuff it, just use an ale yeast. And that's why maybe where you guys are, especially further south, they just don't have the cooler temps for. I don't know. It's
Maybe.
just whereas it seems to be we're set up here for a lot of kind of lager brewing,
Well,
especially with the water. The water's really soft as well, and that might play to it. So
Yeah, it's interesting that like we were talking before the pod, saying that it's been almost sort of like told to us that at some point there's going to be this, big like hoppy lagers are going to come and take over, and they're going to be the bridge between craft and your typical sort of macro beer drinker and all the rest of it, because the reasons that we all like them, they're super drinkable and they've still got that hop character and loads of flavour and everything. will provide that nice sort of gateway beer or whatever to people, but it just doesn't really seem to be a thing that's caught on
Popular.
in any significant way. I mean, obviously there are lots of breweries that do make these kinds of beers from time to time, but I think we were sort of talking about how there's not really any of the big kind of craft breweries, certainly not any of the ones that are kind of represented in supermarkets, things like that, that have a kind of core hoppy lager that would fit any of the descriptions of what we've been talking about just now. And if it was going to be a thing that's going to sort of, you know, grow in popularity, you'd think that by now somebody would be doing that, right? But don't know.
I'd agree, Tricky. I don't know. I think it's quite a nuanced style. I think you know, when you set it aside alongside the hazy, it's like, you know, like clearly people are going to want to drink hazy beer more than they probably are going to want to drink slightly hoppy lager.
Do you think there's like a pushback as well from craft beer drinkers who are like, oh yeah, lager's shit, and they're just not interested in it, sort of full stop? Because I mean, I don't think that's so much the case for people who are brewing, because like, I mean, we all know, like, you sort of it's that classic sort of home brewer full circle where you go like, I was brewing all the stuff that I wanted to make as different to lager as possible, and then 5 years later you're like trying to perfect your Munich Heller's recipe or whatever it is. I have to get this perfect balance for this just super clean, boring light lager that I want to make or whatever. But you know what I mean? Whereas so like the people who are in the craft beer shops who are just there to drink, you know, hazies and IPAs all day are sort of looking at lagers and going, not fussed about that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, maybe that's
You're absolutely
part
right.
of it.
It's definitely a part of it. Clearly, breweries are going to be motivated to, by majority, make beers that are going to sell. Yeah, it's a tough business right now. I think if they didn't have that economic pressure, you'd probably see more breweries trying to probably make these styles that maybe are slightly less popular and appreciated by perhaps fewer people.
Yeah.
But I do think that if you're trying to push the fold on hoppiness, they're just gonna make an IPA. They're just gonna make a hazy pale ale.
Yeah, exactly that.
Because it's faster to produce.
Oh yeah,
it's easier to produce. And it's
less
more
use
widely accepted. You know, whereas actually I think we are overlooking what is when we talked at the very beginning about how the New Zealand Pilsner ticks all the boxes.
It's different.
Well, it ticks all the boxes for us.
Yeah.
We may not necessarily be the common craft drinker, but I actually think it's like all those boxes kind of create a really lovely drinking experience. And I think actually if breweries did make the effort to make more of these styles of beer, it would be more out there and people would really appreciate them. So I think it's a bit of it hasn't quite had its heyday, but unless breweries start to commit to doing it, then it's never going to get there, is it?
No. I think it's a difficult product to place as well, because it's like, it's not quite big enough and exciting enough for your craft beer bar in a lot of cases, or it's just not going to shift enough for them to want to go back and go, you know, like, give us more of that because it's selling really well. But then it's also probably too much to go into your typical like mainstream pub as well, or you might not even be able to get into those pubs because they're all, you know, tied to breweries that would have no interest in putting that sort of niche stuff in there. So yeah, it's finding somewhere to place a sort of product that's a bit of a bridge between those two worlds is difficult, because like neither of them really want it, I guess.
Yeah, maybe it's just gonna be one of those secrets of the home brewer.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's justification for the hobby. Almost,
Yeah.
you just New Zealand Pils being able to make, because you can't buy. Where'd you buy a New Zealand Pils?
Yeah, very rarely see it.
I mean, outside of New Zealand. No. I mean, to be fair, we were talking a bit about Braybrick earlier, and
yeah, you do see places occasionally making them. It's not completely like unheard of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's super
but few
rare.
and far between.
but
for
not
sure.
regular, not
Yeah.
regular at all.
Few and far between. And I agree, Andy. It's a shame because it's such an amazing style of beer.
Yeah.
Like, why are people? Why are not more breweries making it? I do think a lot of breweries just don't have the tank space. They don't have the lager tanks. They don't want to invest putting a beer into a lager tank for 6 to 8 weeks when they could turn around 3 or 4
3.
beers in that time.
Yeah.
So that's the
Yep.
problem, I think.
Cool.
Anyway, so what makes a really great hoppy lager?
Crispy.
Crispy.
Well,
Clarity? Do you think
that's it.
clarity is important?
Nah, maybe a wee
Maybe,
bit.
maybe not. Like, would you drink?
I would be
you'd
super
drink
delighted
hazy
if
one?
it. No, actually, well, I always find that you get, if you do it is hazy, you get that sort of yeast sort of bite from it. It's quite dusty sometimes with lager yeast, whereas I prefer it to be a lot cleaner.
I'd like it to be clear as possible,
Yeah.
but a very slight haze sometimes if it's got
Is
a
acceptable.
good amount of
Yeah,
dry hop in
and
it.
it's
I'm
just
not
dry
really too
hop
worried about.
haze. Yeah,
If it's starting to look anything like a murky beer, then it's like, nah, that's not.
Spoken like a true
Not doing it.
BJCP judge, right there.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point. Little side project conversation. Do you think you can taste a difference in a hazy or a clear beer? Do you reckon if we were to do blind tests?
If you did it blind, I bet the answer would be no. But if you're looking at it, obviously you're going to sort of think that there's a difference.
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's an interesting point, isn't it? I'm sure I might have seen someone do an experiment on that before, and the answer was you can't tell
Okay.
by just by mouthfeel or taste or whatever. You can't tell whether it's hazy or clear. So it's actually just a visual. You eat with your eyes first. So
Yeah.
But then, if you guys
Concept.
not accidentally knocked a keg and then it's put it all up, and then it does taste totally different because you're getting a lot of that yeast on the back of the throat. I describe it as like a dusty thing, like a kind of.
I guess that's a slightly different blind test, isn't it? If you said, take a keg of beer that you've been drinking for a while so you know exactly what it tastes like, and then kick up a load of yeast into it, yeah, I reckon you might be able to tell the difference between
Yeah.
that. But I think that's a bit different. That's just like you've kicked a load of yeast into it rather than there is a I don't know what the right scientific word would be, like a polyphenol haze to it, or some kind of protein haze.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure you're really going to be able to notice the difference. But anyway, side project's over. Crispy, good clarity, debate. What else? Obviously, hoppy. Stupid comment.
Yeah, a little bit hoppy is a good idea for a hoppy lager.
Yeah.
What else?
Fat
Bitter.
hops.
Like a good balance. I think balance is key, isn't it? Like you've got to have a nice. It's got to present as a little
You
bit
don't
more
you
bitter.
don't
isn't it?
generally get a like
No, because Italian. you
a
mentioned.
low bitterness level hoppy lager, do you? I'm trying to think. 'Cause, like they're all kind of modelled on
Point eight.
pilsners
Burger.
rather than like it's not a hoppy hells. Do you know what I mean? It's not
No.
a sort of malt and fruity hop
Nah.
without bitterness. That
It
doesn't,
tastes.
That'll be a weird combo.
doesn't
wouldn't
really
it?
work, does it? I don't think so.
Is it though?
I would say they're almost all gonna carry at least what you could
Points.
describe
What
as balanced bitterness, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna
What
be
burger would you talk then? 0.6 to 1?
Probably not. I mean, if you're getting West Coast Pilsner, you'd be up near 1, but
Yeah.
I would probably be saying like maybe 0.5.
Yeah.
I reckon if I looked at most of my recipes, they'd probably be a bit higher, typically. I reckon it's probably between 0.7, 0.8 for a lot of the stuff I would do.
Mine was 0.65 on the New Zealand Pilsner.
There
Okay.
you go.
I think, I'd say for my taste, that was about
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I could probably take a bit more bitterness, but I think sort of balanced nicely there. I think for me, like a hoppy lager's got to have like still some malt backbone. It's still got to be like, it still has to have some form of malt character. And there also has to be like some lager yeast characteristic.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So it's kind of so that malt and lager yeast character, it tells you it's a lager.
Aye, crispy. That's what.
Crispy.
Yeah.
So it's crispy. So we're
the-
boiling it down to crispy.
Crispy.
And hoppy, yeah.
If we expand on that a little bit
Good.
more, I guess we're also talking about attenuation level. So you probably want it fairly dry, sort of finish, well attenuated,
Yeah.
not too sweet. But obviously, that comes with the bitterness being at a balanced or above sort of level of bitterness.
1.008, 1.009 type
Yeah.
territory.
What do
Obviously, authentic lager yeast generally as a preference.
I did
although
mention the K-bomb.
the original New Zealand Pilsner was actually made with a Kolsch yeast, which is a
All right, okay.
nice little factoids to throw in there.
Wow.
I
Very
would still
good.
recommend doing it with the proper lager yeast because I think you just get a better result doing it that way. But I think it was what's it called? What's the name of the brewery? Emerson's New Zealand Pilsner. I think that's the original one that was done with
There you go.
your Kolsch.
Kolsch.
But you are
Kolsch
going to
yeast.
struggle with. You're probably going to struggle quite a bit with certainly getting that clarity. I've found with Kolsch yeast as well, especially if it's dry hopped and all that sort of fun stuff too.
bit hit miss and that bit hit miss with that, depending what yeast what strain you use, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's some that are better, but there's definitely some
Yeah.
which are a nightmare to get to clear.
So how is making a hoppy lager different to making a hoppy ale?
Definitely.
Aside from the
Good
obvious.
question.
It's less. I don't think the hopping rate's as high anywhere near.
Much more modest hopping rate, definitely.
Yeah.
But because the style, it presents a lot cleaner and sharper, and but you're still getting those flavours. It's just on it's a more zingier type drink.
Yeah, I think like you were saying, Owen, it's kind of like paying attention to trying to get that base lager character in there and almost decorating it a little bit with the hops around that, as opposed to making it's all about, I want
hops.
to taste 100% Citron Mosaic in this beer
Yeah.
or whatever. Where if you're making an IPA or whatever, really we're not focusing that much. We want the malt and everything to carry that and help to maybe make it have that sort of thick, juicy texture to it or whatever, but we're not necessarily sort of thinking about what's the actual flavour I'm getting out of that as much as what we're, I guess we're just focusing much more on the hops themselves as opposed to
ABV is
to
probably a
use
good
that.
point to mention then, because you know with IPAs you tend to go way up to, you can go up to 6, 7, whatever.
Yep.
Whereas I think an IPL or a hoppy lager, you tend to stay within the realms of between 4 and 5.5, 5.6 type. I would imagine is where you're going to be living
Yeah.
Yeah.
in your ABV. You're not going to be going anything mega.
Yeah, so the strength, that's a good point, Andy. So the strength is going to almost restrain perhaps the hopping rate. It seems like hoppy lagers, hoppy ales, sorry, it's almost like the hopping rate is the sky's the limit.
Yeah, do what you want.
It's like Nobody cares about clarity anymore.
Yeah.
Everyone just wants as much hop saturation as humanly possible without green notes.
Yeah.
Just cram in as much hoppiness as humanly possible. Whereas hoppy lagers are very much like, how do you push the fold without compromising the style
The
of beer?
balance.
Which is like the balance, the clarity, the essence of the lager. So I guess for me that's probably the key difference. And so restraint is key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like your
Lagers.
gold nail, bit like
A
making
gold
a
nail.
gold nail, right? Like if you're gonna make a gold nail, you probably want that to have good clarity. You probably want that to present in a kind of malt forward way, but with a hoppiness to it. You remain quite restrained with
Truth. Yeah.
what you add to it. Yeah.
Sadly, it seems like Wild Horse have missed the mark on that a little bit, according to Dylan. Yeah, but I guess goes to show can be quite difficult.
Yeah. Not easy. Rainbow Bagel. Rainbow Bagel, is that the brewery?
No, the brewery's Wild Horse, but the beer
yeah.
is Rainbow Bagel.
Oh, okay.
No, there's two beers. There's the Wild Horse,
Oh, Tudno
Tudno Pils, and then you've got Rainbow Bagel, who did the New Zealand Pilsner.
Oh, sorry, those are the
There's
breweries.
two
Two
different
breweries, two different beers. Right.
Yeah, because Wild Horse is North Wales.
Yeah, no, I'm with you now.
Nice. Nice.
Literally, my beer mat right now is a Wild Horse beer mat.
Ah.
There you go. Lucky da.
Ah. Serendipity right there.
I've been.
So, like, how would you guys, if you were approaching, I don't know, let's take Adam makes beers, Hell's recipe, and you said, right, I'm going to take that as the base because it's a really great lager. How am I going to adapt that into a hoppy lager recipe?
I'd say don't use that
Go
one.
Okay.
Get his Pilsner recipe. But I mean, I think we were alluding to this at the beginning. I think you the easiest pathway to developing a recipe for this is just to get a fairly bog standard German Pilsner recipe and then go, if I want to make a New Zealand Pilsner, I'm going to change all the hops in that to like Nelson and similar hops and add a little bit of dry hop on the end of it potentially, or just make a fairly hefty whirlpool if you want to keep it all hot side instead. If you want to do a West Coast Pilsner or an IPL, you're probably going to push the bitterness up a little bit higher than where you would have had it. You're probably going to go for a slightly heftier dry hop in that case. But I would say, I mean, for me personally, as far as like sort of IPL or West Coast style beers that I've done, I would still be looking at probably a dry hop that is definitely below 100 grams for a typical batch size. And even then, you might be finding that that's a little bit too much. So, yeah, if my New Zealand Pilsner's at sort of like 40 to 60 tops, I'd probably be thinking sort of 80 to 100 maybe for a West Coast Pilsner as a starting point. I know there's probably examples where people will have done a lot more than that, but I think that's where you start to then get crossover between certainly a modern West Coast IPA can taste very much like a West Coast Pilsner if you really push the hops on it. And there's probably people who are brewing modern West Coast IPAs and they're actually using like lager yeast. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few people doing that. Essentially, a kind of like a cold IPA type approach to it.
Yeah, just to get like even more snappiness
Yeah,
out of the beer, which of course is part of that style, I guess. Whereas I guess some breweries would probably use dextrose to push the
yeah,
finishing gravity
that's
down.
a good point.
I guess
yeah.
you could just use a lager that might attenuate a bit lower, which is interesting.
Yeah, you'd use yeast definitely that would bring it down. But You'd use carapils, nice Pilsner base, maybe a little bit of Munich. Just
Well, I guess
it's personal preference, isn't it?
your mileage may vary. I think it's sort of take whatever your trusted kind of lager grist is. You know,
Yeah,
you
it could
might
be
even use a
Vienna.
bit of wheat in there. Just for,
I'm telling
Oh,
lies, by
wow.
the way. I've looked back at one of my West Coast Pilsen recipes. I've got like 160 gram dry hop in it, but do as I say,
did it
not
come
as I
out
do.
hazy though? From memory.
From memory, I think this one actually surprisingly cleared down pretty well, but I've certainly had some where I've not had that happen.
And I guess
at all.
maybe that took time.
Yeah, definitely took a while in the keg. This was a slightly stronger beer as well, to be fair. So this was like 5.6%. So that was getting up towards almost like a normal
Yeah.
IPA kind of strength as well. So I think there is that to factor in as well. The stronger the beer, you might want to slightly up the hopping rate.
The Citra Pils we did as a brew, they all did it together. That's
Yeah.
got a 92 gram dry hop, so
Okay, that's probably a bit more in line with what I was saying.
yeah,
Then.
yeah,
Yeah, and I recall that beer sort of taking a while to clear down. I guess you're going to be lagering it for 4 to 6 weeks. We'll probably talk a bit about clarity later on. Apparently Brett's saying 18 grams per litre or go home. He's probably more into the sort of nipple territory, which
Yeah.
for any long-term listeners, Chris's nipple recipe was very much a extremely large dry hop.
The at times controversial nipple.
Yeah, which, and at times made with an ale yeast.
K-bomb.
Yeah, we'll
I
not get
think-
into that.
There kind of has to be, it sort of segues to the next kind of question, is sort of how are you adjusting your brewing approach? I want to labour the point here, but, restraint's key. And I think talking a bit about the sort of massive dry hop is kind of almost, you end up in a place that really means you've just created a hoppy pale ale or an IPA,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you aren't going to notice that it was made with a lager yeast. It's just going to be, that's quite a crispy pale ale but it's hazy as fuck and it's super hoppy.
Yeah.
And then for me, that's sort of, you almost end up losing the essence of what the beer style was about.
Absolutely that.
That's back to the sky's the limit. Chuck as many hops as humanly possible at it. Makes no difference. Like, you may as well just use Kvike, whatever ale yeast or
Yeah.
whatever lager yeast you've got lying
Maybe.
around.
I mean, I think the important thing there is
Danger.
you are just going to lose the subtle kind of impact of using a proper lager yeast, like you were saying before, and that it's almost like you're rendering all that effort of doing a lager schedule, conditioning it, and everything kind of pointless because you're not going to pick up
Yeah.
on that subtlety of the crispy boy flavour that you want from it as well.
100%. What's the point in pitching twice as much yeast?
Yeah.
And labouring over the fermentation when you then just chuck 300 gram dry hop and
All that time and effort.
completely demolish the lager character.
And it's just
in
just another
entirety.
hop soup, right? Basically.
Yeah, just take an ale yeast and do your worst. Yeah, it's a bit silly, really. What about decoction? I decided, I don't know why, thought I'd experiment. I decided to decoct the New
Did
Zealand
you?
Pilsner that I made. I was like, well, why not? I was doing a double batch. I was like, yeah, I'll just do a late single decoction, just see if I can drive the additional malt backbone. But I think sort of coming back to my prior point about kind of what makes a hoppy lager is for me, personally, I think is that malt backbone that kind of carries the beer. you know, like I think the more malty you can make the beer, the more you can carry the
Flavour.
hops, the more hop character you can add to the beer.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think actually decoction could be a really interesting tool in the box.
Depends what
So-
malt you use in it though. Oh, and it's like
Well, that's true. That
because
is true.
because we got that, was it the Dingemans, and that's so clean. It's like
Yeah.
very clean. Whereas if you're using like the Bohemian Pilsner, the Vermin, that stuff's like honey.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm a little bit loath to sort of almost waste floor malted pilsner on a beer that's going to be more hop forward though, because I feel like I'm kind of like losing some of the benefit of the malt. Kind of, it's the other way round in that sense maybe. I've done quite a lot of beers like this where I've just used a fairly neutral lager or pilsner malt like that. I mean, I would say the Dingerman's one is a bit neutral flavour wise.
clean, yeah.
Pretty clean, sort of. Yeah, just straight sort of lager malt really. But I've quite often added like a little bit of Munich into the mix with that, just to try and give it a little bit more fuller flavour for those sort of beers, and that's worked well for me. Just about 5% Munich malt on top of something like that.
Even a
Done
chunk
that with
of
New
Vienna.
Zealand Pils and West Coast Pilsners before.
Or a bit of melanoidin, or a bit of
Yeah.
biscuit malt. Could
Yeah.
sort of just bring a
Biscuit.
little bit of character.
Or your very light
Quite small.
caramel malts like your Carahel.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
favourite of yours, Tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, man, all about the
Munich, maybe.
Carahel.
A
Cut
very
that in.
small contribution of that. I think for me it's like that malt character can help carry the hop characteristic. I think that's a preference thing though. Like it really depends on what you're trying to achieve in your hoppy lager. You know, you could go as far as to like down the road of the cold IPA, using corn or rice, or you know, you could be aiming for like a super light, you know, like American light lager type thing, and then making that more hoppy, and that might actually work really well because it could be super light, so it's going to be like very much like a very crispy thing, but
I do,
I don't
different
know,
hops.
It's going to be a
The new-
balancing act, isn't it? Depending on how you approach it.
Yeah, I would go see we were talking about the New Zealand stuff. I'd like that dry, because then that sort of dryness goes really well with those kind of winey hops. Whereas if it's like big C hops, like American, then I'm going to be wanting to layer it with some like Munich and just bring a bit of sweetness that will play well with the American C hops.
Agreed.
yeah. We're getting into it now. We're getting into the nuance, the nuance of like what you're trying to
Designing.
actually achieve. Yeah, I think that's where you're kind of getting into the experimentation of sort of what's in your mind's eye in terms of what, you know, how do you start to bring the thing that you're trying to create to the fore.
Yeah.
Which is cool. We got a couple of things on the list to talk a bit about, like, you know, Wars profile, pH as well, which is an interesting point. You know, we don't want to talk about that for too long, but you know, I guess when you're sort of beginning to add more
Steer
hops,
clear of the water chemistry rabbit hole.
water
Don't go
chemistry
down there
conversation.
again.
Well, we've
That's
been
like-
talking a lot about water chemistry and pH. There's been a lot of education on it as well recently, isn't there? Because it used to be hit 5.2 as your mash, and then now it's like, no, you don't want to do that. For like your normal lagers, you want to be about 5.4, 5.5 maybe even. And then if you're doing hoppy pales and all that sort of thing, then you definitely want to be down at the 5.2. So that's interesting. But then where do you want to go for a hoppy lager? You know.
Well, and the logic there, right, is if you are adding more hops into the whirlpool and or then dry hopping, that's going to start to raise your pH, isn't it? Which could, you know, if it gets too high, let's say you mashed at 5.5, let's say, trying to get more of a malt forward character, that dry hop's going to take you into the sort of 5.7 category for the finished beer. You're going to start getting a more astringent flavour. You might start getting the interesting unwanted bitterness character from the hops. So for me, personally, I think I'd be trying to aim and target more the lower pH range at 5.2, compensate for the fact that the hops are going to increase the pH.
Yeah.
And then you end up like into a sort of more sensible range.
I still generally go as low as possible for all my lagers with the pH, to be honest. So it's not really any different for Hoppy ones. I'm always aiming down to 5.2, 5.3 as a starting point generally.
Same. Anything with anything that's hoppy for me, I'm going 5.2. Anything that's malt forward and not hoppy, I'm going like 5.4.
Yeah.
That's pretty much my mode of operation at the moment.
Yeah, and this is new, fairly new to me. I would say the whole 5.4 thing. It's like, because I used to always just target 5.2, whereas now it's like, no, actually. Yeah.
Little lever to play with. And it's mental when you're talking about, oh, by the way, there's a massive difference between 0.2
pH.
0.2 of a pH. You're like, now we're really getting into like, you know,
Exactly.
drilling into the detail. But there genuinely
It's
is.
like
There genuinely is like quite a significant difference because of the downstream kind of impact of what you're trying to adjust upstream, if you know what I mean. So that's kind of an interesting point.
Water profile. Should we do? Should we just sulfate chloride?
Well, this is an interesting one because it's kind of like, West Coast Pills is a good kind of case study for this, because you might be inclined to go, oh, I'll do a West Coast style water profile and put shitloads of sulfate in there, and have a barely, like, I don't know, but let's say 150 to 200 ppm sulfate, and I would say that's probably not going to give you a good result typically, because you've already got quite a dry, base beer there. You're going to have quite the bitterness is going to be fairly prominent anyway. You're putting quite a lot of hops in for that sort of style, and I think personally, if you pushing the minerality, particularly in terms of sulfate, up too high in a beer like that, you can get quite an aggressive, raspy sort of bitterness coming through from that, and you can almost dry it out too much to the point where it's quite astringent bitterness on the back end of it. So I personally would say, yeah, maybe you have a little bit more sulfate to chloride, but keep it like pretty soft water profile overall. And
What, like 80?
Yeah, but I would be thinking twice about going anything above 100, but I'd probably be looking more like 70, 80, and then you can have like 40 chloride. If you put enough gypsum and calcium chloride in to get that sort of level, you're going to be around about 50 plus on the calcium anyway. So you've kind of got a very simple, quite soft water profile there that is still giving you like a low ppm, sort of 2-to-1 sulfate to chloride ratio. And I don't know how much of an impact the sulfate to chloride ratio makes when you are at those lower levels, but I feel like it's still enough of a difference to be worth doing, and it keeps you with that fairly clean water character that you want in a lager again. So again, generally it's kind of like trying to maintain that lager character in the base beer without turning it into something else, because you can kind of do that through going too mad with the water profile as well. And you might even want to flip it on its head and go, well, actually the bitterness is going to be quite prominent anyway, maybe I want to actually soften that a little bit and and go the other way. And so I'm actually going to put a bit more chloride into this to try and smooth it a little bit. And that's something that I do with all the New Zealand pilsners I make. I actually go the other way around and do a sort of 80-40 chloride to sulfate, something like that.
I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Tricky. I think you want a more softer characteristic to the beer.
Yeah.
What you need to appreciate, and I'm speaking more for our listeners than the two of you, is these are just nuanced levers that you can pull, right?
Yeah, very nuanced.
It's not like you must have sulfate higher than chloride if you want hot presence. No, well, you can still have hot presence if you have a higher chloride sulfate ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, like your NEPA style demonstrates that as a lesson. And this is true of the same thing. Like you want that softness to the beer.
Yeah.
You don't want, unless of course that's a preference thing, right? If you fancy something super raspy because that's what you like, by all means, go nuts on your sulfates.
Did you see Bagley? Bagley did a video recently, or just a the quick thing, and he did a comparison between
Like a
sulfate
YouTube
beer.
short, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a short, and it was just like it was super like very very small nuanced between the two, but it's literally like you say, it's just little levers that you can pull that can slightly change the beer. But
I mean,
the beer's going to be roughly the same, it's still, but
precisely that's the point, right? The beer's going to be like, to the untrained palate, the beer's the same.
Yeah.
To a trained palate, there is subtle differences, but I think my preference would be towards chloride softness rather than sulfate sharpness. As a side point, I'm not sure I was ever going to meet a home brewer that's more prolific than Tricky and Brett, and it turns out Bagley's arrived on the scene. That boy is churning out some beers.
I'm starting to look through his back catalogue now because I kind of missed it because he's only been on the scene for about 4, 5, 6 months or something on YouTube. And it's just, I mean, he's got like a microbrewery. Like,
he's pushing
was it 120 litre
every week?
Yeah. It's class.
It's wild. It's proper wild. And he has got an amazing setup. So, I don't know if he's in the chat.
He's normally in the afters, but
yeah. He'll probably be on the afters, which is great fun. He'll be in the after party for sure. Awesome.
So interestingly, sorry, just on the New Zealand Pilsner thing, in the BJCP guidelines, they actually specify typically it has more chloride than sulfate, which is quite unusual for them to actually mention specifics on the water profile like that. But it's literally in the BJCP style guideline for it. So that must be from one of the original breweries that they've got that sort of information. And I think it's also for me that's kind of particular to like Nelson hops as well, because like they can have a really drying sort of like flavor anyway, and then you add that to sort of like a dry base beer and a bit of bitterness as well. And yeah, again, that's sort of if you multiply that again with higher sulfate, it's kind of like you're maybe going to end up with something that's sort of starting to taste a bit like grape skin, kind of, that sort of astringent, sour, almost sourness to it. Perhaps, I don't know, or maybe it won't make any difference at all. Maybe we're just completely like,
I don't know,
ruminating on these like very minor effects.
Well, we are. That's what we're all about, Trick.
But it works for me. It works for me anyway, and it's you've done the same, Owen, and it's worked for you. So
for sure.
we can only go on our own experience, can't we?
Well, I think this is where, in particular, the New Zealand Pilsner, it's like if you can get the water profile right with the more chloride heavy water profile, and you can decoct if you're using the relevant appropriate malt, like a Bohemian Pilsner, I think you can get like a really lovely soft malt backbone to the beer that just helps to accentuate that like really nice New Zealand hop character. I think it's a powerful combination. So that's my sort of go-to. I just want to sort of come back to the whole pH water profile, like for listeners that might not necessarily be operating using RO water, which you commonly, whenever we talk about water profiles, we're more or less coming from the point of using RO water or having an RO filter and building it from a blank slate. If you're using tap water, obviously you need to understand what your tap water profile looks like in terms of chloride sulfate ratio. But I think as long as you are using an appropriate acid to buffer the mash pH to the right level, regardless of what your chloride or sulfate ratio might be, that's a pretty good starting point on how to make a decent hoppy lager. Get your mash pH at 5.2 using phosphoric, lactic, whatever you might be using. I think you probably be on the right road. Is that a fair comment, do you think?
Yeah, I'll be happy with that.
Nice. Tricky's approved. Andy, you going to approve that comment?
Sweet. Good.
Rubber stamped. There you go. Post it. Are we going to go to a commercial break?
Yep. Take it.
Well, if we're going to do it, we better do it quick, because I'm halfway down mine already.
No, are you? Right, I need to exit for a quick break, 2 seconds.
Go.
No worries. Shall I start with my one then, Andy?
Yeah, why not?
Already got it in there. So on my excursion looking for a actual like West Coast Pilsner or similar style beer, I was looking for Left-Handed Giant beers in the bottle shop, because I know that Left-Handed Giant do actually do a really decent West Coast Pilsner.
Bristol in it?
Yeah, and they're one of my favourite breweries anyway, to be fair. But it's not a track beer for once. So
That's about to say, what? Wait, your favourite brewery?
Yeah.
That's track.
one of the other favourites.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, I was looking for Left-Handed Giant, but I didn't find any beers that fitted the brief for tonight. So I picked this one up instead, which is Route 6. It's a West Coast IPA. So I'm sort of imagining in my head that it's actually been made with a lager yeast, and it's actually a really good West Coast Pilsner or IPA or something. But it's not quite working for me. But yeah, it's a 6.8% Westy.
Why not?
It's a bit more of your old school take on it, with good clarity.
Still quite pale, innit? It's
Yeah, fairly pale. There's a little
probably
bit of colour on there, so I reckon there's either
Munich?
some Munich, yeah, maybe
yeah.
decent whack of Munich in there, but it doesn't really have that sort of more caramelly kind of note to it. And it's got an interesting mix of hops actually, which is not that far off some of the stuff that I put into. Well, actually, it is quite far off, but it's a similar sort of idea to what I did with the West Coast Pale that I did recently. I think I did that with the high voltage yeast, and I'm pretty sure I put that in a video somewhere. But anyway, it's a kind of mixture of old school C hop stuff and a couple of more recent ones. But it's got crush hops, which I presume they've used kind of as the finishing, and dry hops, but it's also got Chinook, Columbus, Citra, and Simcoe, so it's got some real good West Coast stuff in there with the crush. And I think I said on the beer I made, I think the crush can actually work quite well as a sort of top note with those more traditional kind of like West Coast hops, because it's still got a real bright citrus character to it.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it, Crush?
But yeah, it's proper
sherbet,
bitter.
is it like a sherbet type kind of hop? Like,
I think it's kind of like got a little bit of that like mixed citrus sort of breakfast juice character to it, but with a bit of the tropical. Yeah, but yeah, I mean this is it's got that old school West Coast thing, but with just a nice little top note of kind of tropical. Now you've said sherbety, I'm like, maybe there is a little bit of sherbety flavour in there. Yeah, really nice, piney, little bit of a sort of sticky. When the alcohol's a little bit higher up on these sorts of beers, you start to get that sort of sticky malt character to it, with the piney hops, gives that kind of resinous flavour. Good firm bitterness to it. Very nice. Could probably make a decent IPA if you stuck a lager yeast in it.
Not the bit the alcohol does.
Is it a track beer?
No.
No, it's
Left-Handed
Giant.
Oh,
His
nice.
second favourite brewery.
Route 6.
On
Is it? Second favourite brewery?
Well, I don't know if I go that far, but they're in the top 5 at least. Anyway, I think.
Really?
But I was saying before that I ended up picking up one of their beers because I was looking for their West Coast bills in the bottle shop, which they didn't have. But yeah, proper old school Westy vibes there, but maybe the malt bill was a little bit more on the kind of modern West Coast front in terms of not so much of the caramel malt sort of character to it, but otherwise it's definitely got bags of that kind of sea hop character, a little bit of fruitiness on the back end from the crush. Nice bit of finish, really nice. Yeah, my kind of beer when it comes to West Coast IPA. So I would recommend that one. That's decent. If we were going to bother scoring it, what would I do? I don't know. 4.2. I would go with that. So yeah,
Cool.
out of 5, not 10.
All
Right,
right,
you
shall I
going,
go?
Andy?
Yeah,
go, Andy.
so I actually did manage to get a IPL or whatever. It was one of the originals, so I got Caesar Augustus. It was the first thing that came to my head, which is Williams Brothers, brewed in Alloa in Scotland, and it is. Do you know what? It's actually quite interesting because when I smell it, all I'm getting is cracker bread. I'm actually not getting like hit with loads of like hoppiness on the nose.
Okay.
Right, so I was like, "Whoa," because I've had this beer quite a lot in the past.
You're like, where's the hops gone in this batch?
Where's the hops? But it's super cracker bread lager. It is like total reminiscent of lager. And I was reading the notes in the back, and it does state, clean notes of the finest lager. The smell of it is pure lager, but then it's when you go in, you're just getting that bright citrus sort of clean, crisp, but it's got that sort of nice like citrus sort of on the back. It's almost like a Citra type with maybe like what's it, the sea hop Cascade. It's like a kind of Cascade and Citra playing in the back. Yeah, and dead crispy, but it's very delicate. The whole thing's very delicate. It's not overwhelming with hop presence, but it's just nice coating, and just you've got that sort of cracker bready sort of lager base. It's beautiful, very very drinkable. So that makes me think. I don't think they dry hop this. I think this is it's all boil or kettle hops, because I'm getting very little aroma from the hops. I'm getting a lot of aroma from the actual malts themselves and getting that lager sort of smell. But yeah,
Big flame out edition maybe.
yeah. It's got that sort. Well, I wouldn't even say it's big, Owen. I just think they've put a flame out, but it's all very balanced to the malt, and it's only, was it 4.1? Yeah, 4.1%. So it's still quite low alcohol,
Yeah.
but loads of flavour.
Rating?
Caesar's like a 4.5, definite. It's a great beer, very drinkable. Crush. You buy. I tend to prefer this over Joker. If you're into Williams Brothers, that up here. But yeah, it's my favourite out of a lot of them.
Nice.
Strong showing.
Yeah, it's a great beer.
Right. Well, I'm drinking a beer from Beer Hut Brewing Co., who are based in Northern Ireland. Hadn't heard of them before, and I actually ended up having a bruiser box, which I'm subscribed to each month, and I'd forgotten to select a brewery, so I got a surprise box, and Beer Hut arrived, and I'm drinking a beer called Between the Pines. Have a guess what style of beer that is.
West Coast IPA.
Yeah, 10 points for Gryffindor. Um, so it's a West Coast IPA, it's 6%. Reasonable clarity, like
Yeah,
a little bit of haze.
Bit of hop
not
haze.
too bad. There's like a nice kind of honey malt aroma to the beer. Definitely very piney. You can see why they named it Between the Pines. Super piney. Sticky, resiny. Maybe picking up on a bit of orange. Tangerine. Lemon zest. So you're kind of getting more of that sort of citrus thing, but lots and lots of pine. On the flavour, it's kind of like there's a definite bitterness there that's kind of zippy, but like quite a drying beer. It's quite dry for 6%. It's gotten easier to drink, and this is partly probably true of most West Coast beers. When you first take that sip and you go, that's
Hoppy.
that's almost borderline offensive.
Yeah.
You know, and then you come back for another
You
sip
readjust.
where it goes, you go, that's a bit offensive, but I'm definitely going to have another sip. Right? And then you have another sip and you're, oh, that's actually right. And then you have another
Yeah, you
sip.
adjust.
And you ease into it, don't you?
Yeah.
I'm
That's the
actually
way the West
enjoying it a
is.
lot more
Yeah.
after 3 or 4 sips now. Pretty piney. I probably couldn't pick out which hops in. I would be at a guess quite a bit of Columbus, maybe a bit of Chinook, possibly some Cascade or Centennial. Really nice, but I've been, just as a general side point, super impressed with Beer Hut Brewing Co. I've probably had 3 of the beers so far that I got. I'm also drinking a beer called Stay Gold, which is a 5.3% IPA, which looks a bit like that. It's hazy, it's gold, it's definitely a bit darker. I'd be hazarding a guess that there's a bit of caramel in there. It's like really got a nice
I thought I would look more like low colour Marisota on from.
yeah, maybe oats,
Look at that. Yeah.
Marisota, probably get the same sort of result.
Yeah.
It's quite a sweet beer, but great hop character, great hop presence, really nice hop aroma. They know what they're doing with the hoppy beers. I had a beer, I think it was last night, maybe the night before, which is like a 6.5% IPA, hazy IPA. That was really good. So I'd recommend people checking out Beer Hut Brewing Co. I wouldn't go as far as say like blowing me away up there with Track or Verdant, but in terms of just being a very solid brewery, they're putting out some excellent beer. Really, really nice.
Cool.
Sound.
So I would give this West Coast IPA a 3.9. 3.9. Not the best West Coast IPA I've had, but certainly not offensive.
Right.
Cool.
There you go.
All right then.
You're welcome.
That is the commercial break. Done and
Bosh.
dusted.
Done.
Cool. Right. So we'll get back into a few other points that we've got to talk about in terms of approaches for brewing these delicious hoppy lagers that we've been discussing up to this point, we've kind of done a fair bit on kind of hopping rates and whirlpool dry hopping. Anything that we need to add to that? Do you think, really?
Just
or...
off the back of trying this, I think maybe Owen's maybe get a point with just doing a whirlpool rather than dry hopping.
Yeah.
And then trying to drive that lager aroma, maybe.
Yeah.
If that's what you're aiming for, I suppose as a home brewer, if you do want like a New Zealand, you might want that sort of.
So let's talk about some more specific examples then in terms of recipes and so on. So we started off talking about the Italian Pilsner, and I've just dug out the...
Which has dry hopped, yeah.
Which is modestly dry hopped, but yeah, it's dry hopped nonetheless. And I've dug out the clone recipe that I talked about doing when I didn't realise it was sort of based on a Italian Pilsner kind of idea. But the Pivo Pils clone recipe by Firestone Walker, which is literally just 100% Pilsner malt, and then it's or the recipe I've got anyway has got a bit of Tetnang and a bit of Sapphire in it.
Yeah.
But as far as the sort of whirlpool or flame out hops, it's only 22 grams, and this was a 19-litre batch
of Sapphire.
Sapphire. The Tetnang was earlier in the boil.
Yeah.
And you've got, so that's equivalent to like just over 1 gram per litre, so not a huge amount in the whirlpool. And then dry hopping was a little bit more, but still pretty modest, so 34 grams of Sapphire for the dry hop, which is just under 2 grams per litre. So your Italian Pilsner, you know, it's just a very light touch with some extra hops in the dry hop there. Still sticking with your kind of noble varieties. Sapphire is one of the slightly more modern sort of German hops, but it's still very much kind of noble in character, I would say.
Yeah.
So other than that, yeah, it's a pretty standard Pilsner recipe, just with some light dry hopping on it, really. So pretty straightforward there. What about your New Zealand Pilsner, Owen? How much whirlpool did you do?
I did. So I did a 23-litre batch, and I
think you did a 46. Did you not?
Well, yeah, but if I scale it back to sort of a single batch recipe, which is for the most part what people are going to be making, I actually did a 100-gram whirlpool at 75 degrees. Yeah. So I did 50 grams of Nelson and 50 grams of Hop Revolution blend.
Nice.
But I did I partly layered the hops through the boil, so I bittered with Magnum. So I just to
clean.
Yeah, and I think interestingly, one of the things that I'm going to go on a little side project for a second. We all drank. I think we all drank Mark's Hop Revolution beer. What was it called? It was based on the Vacant Revolution.
Yeah.
Amazing beer. Like the hop characteristic that you got out of that hop on that base of beer, which is essentially a golden ale.
Yep.
I think more or less.
Yeah.
Really excellent beer. But what interested me the most, having looked at the recipe, was what he had used in the boil. And I can't remember which hop it was that he used. Mark's in the chat, so he'll tell me. But he'd used an interesting hop. It might have been an English hop.
If it was following the original Vacant recipe, it would be Challenger.
It might have been Challenger, right? Interesting thought in terms of how can the boil hop addition change the characteristic of the later hops that you're adding.
It does.
And I think the success of what Mark had brewed was partly to do with the combination of the Challenger hops and the Hop Revolution blend on top of each other, which created this incredible, super fruity, lovely salad bowl, fruit salad, not salad bowl. You don't want it tasting like a salad.
Totally.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's a bit of noble spice, or a bit of like earthy sort of, or floral, something that it's like a yin and yang sort of thing to play it off.
Just a bit more depth.
It just it elevates something, doesn't it? It just
I think
creates
this
a foundation for
comes back a little bit to that what we were saying before about kind of oversimplifying what the different hop additions contribute. And again, traditionally, a lot of people would have said, "Oh, well, you can bitter with anything; it's going to make no difference whatsoever." And I don't really go along with that idea. I think you're going to boil off. Yes, you're going to boil off a hell of a lot of the volatile, flavor compounds and whatnot. So, but I don't think it's completely,
It was like me putting Simcoe
irrelevant
in that hop tester.
Yeah.
And it was like a small amount of hop Simcoe at 60 minutes, and it totally
I just think you're always going to get some sort of character from it. The other thing is also, if you're using different hops, like different AA values, you might be putting a hell of a lot of one hop in to achieve the same bitterness versus a super high alpha bittering hop, in which case there's a lot more vegetal matter going in as well, which is going to be getting boiled in the mix for the full season. I'm like, the flavour of that is not just going to completely evaporate into nothing.
They do that with Landlord as well.
So it's just purely, the bitterness and nothing else.
Yeah.
So I don't subscribe to this idea that 60-minute additions it's irrelevant what variety you use.
This is why Budvar stick with Saz such a low alpha, but they can pack so much of the hops in the kettle. It just it brings something. But Owen, you mentioned Magnum. I love Magnum because it just brings this real clean bitterness at the start. So when you take that initial sip, it's like a super clean sort of that bitterness acid sort of thing that you get. It's so clean.
Yeah.
Whereas like Columbus is so dank. It's like you can taste the Columbus at a 60-minute. It's unreal.
No, I agree. There's definitely some bittering hops, particularly some of the more modern varieties where you get something coming through from them for sure. Just coming back to that New Zealand Pilsner recipe, what was the total quantity sort of whirlpool that you said, Owen?
So it was 100 grams in the whirlpool.
Yep.
But I did layer in some Hop Revolution blend at 10 minutes and 5 minutes. So I was just trying to kind of build a bit more character into the beer. Okay. So like you say, I think there's a lot of credence to sort of adding some of those later hop boil additions.
No, 100%.
So you get more character. So you're not getting this one-dimensional like clean bitterness plus top note hops.
Yeah, absolutely.
You kind of want something in between, just kind of meld those two things together. And I think Magnum is a great choice. As Andy pointed out, Magnum's just kind of going to give you a very kind of relatively clean base. You could use flax alternatively in this sort of beer style. You could experiment with other things. I mean, I've looked at Nugget. I've looked at some Challenger. There's lots of different hop choices you could go with.
Apollo or so. The breweries
Apollo,
are using
Bravo
17 alpha.
There's loads of choices, right? You could use all sorts. And each would kind of give like a ever so slight shift and different stage for the hops to come on. So all good, but yeah, as I mentioned, I literally went with a relatively big whirlpool.
Yep.
But no dry hop.
Yeah, that's huge.
Well, we were talking about sort of to dry hop or not to dry hop in the context of the New Zealand Pilsner, but interestingly, my New Zealand Pilsner recipe, the total quantity between the whirlpool and the dry hop is pretty much the same as what you've done there. I've just sort of split it.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the same amount. So it's about 50 for the whirlpool, 60 for the dry hop. So just slightly more, but it's hopping rate wise, it's pretty much equivalent, isn't it? And I did do the same thing with. It's not really a concept that people talk about very much these days, but hop bursting used to be a thing that people talked about a lot, where you'd be doing multiple additions through the boil. And I think I still think that's a really good tactic to use. And as you were saying, Owen, to get some of that character in the boil, give you a little bit more sort of depth of flavour to it. And I do that with the New Zealand Pills recipe. So I've got a 10-minute, 5-minute addition, and actually a 30-minute small addition as well, just for the bitterness. But it's all, in this case, it was all Revolution blend. So
yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I think this is where our brewing starts to become a little bit homogenous, in so much as I don't know where that recipe originally came from. It's possibly that I've asked for your recipe because I wanted to create it, and then I'm asking for other people's recipes, and then it kind of similar ideas percolate into this kind of sort of similar approaches.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think you could even go as fast as sort of doing the whole like 30-minute, 25-minute, 20-minute, 15-minute, all the way to flame out. It could create some really interesting results.
So has anyone got an IPL or a West Coast Pills recipe where they can talk about quantities of nothing?
I don't think I think maybe I've made one IPL in the past. I don't think I've ever made a West Coast Pills. I've obviously made plenty of West Coast IPAs.
You got anything, Andy?
Yeah, I think so. I've got an IPL, Citra, Simcoe, Amarillo.
Yeah. So what was your sort of hopping schedule?
Yeah, so
On that.
what have we got? We've got the hopping schedule was 22 grams of Magnum for bittering, so it's a big Magnum. And then at the end of the boil, flame out 40 grams of Simcoe, and then it was 20 grams of Simcoe, because this is a 46 litre batch that I did at the time. And then it was 40 grams of Amarillo, 30 grams of Citra, and 30 grams of Simcoe as a dry hop. Yeah.
Okay.
And then lager yeast.
So what's that total? Was that 100 grams dry hop-ish?
Dry hop is 4.7 grams per litre. So it's fairly... Yeah.
Not massive, but a decent amount, yeah.
That's the IPL that I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only IPL I ever made was an all Talus IPL. And I fermented that with Imperial yeast, Harvest L17. And I went Columbus at 60 minutes, 150 grams in the whirlpool, and 200 gram dry hop. And you can only imagine that probably came out more like a hazy IPA than it did.
That's perhaps breaking a few of the rules that we
an
were
IPL.
talking about.
But I will add, in my defence, that was 1,570 days ago.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a bit earlier on.
There's one I did where it was like a split batch by the looks, and what I did was I did one as an IPL and one as a New Zealand Pils.
Yeah.
And so the difference was it was all, both the lager base was all Saz, and then one had 40 grams of Simcoe and the other one had 30 grams of Nelson and 10 grams of Galaxy. And I remember the New Zealand one was way better. way better.
Fuck the Galaxy out of that one.
No. The Galaxy Nelson was fine. That was a good one.
Sorry, I meant
It was the Simcoe. The Simcoe one was the one.
Yeah.
It was just like it was like this sort of weak tangerine thing, and I think 40 grams of Simcoe is probably not enough, and probably needs some more support from other things. to
Well,
get.
that's a really good point, actually, as well, isn't it? We're sort of talking about the almost slightly arbitrary kind of hopping rates on stuff, but you got to like factor in that 60 grams of Nelson or Hop
Oh,
Revolution blend is going to have a different impact to
yeah, it's bringing loads
60
of high
grams
notes.
of trying to think. I mean, like, well, Motueka is not as potent as Nelson, is it? Like, that's not going to have quite the same kick to it.
No, I think it does. It's very limey, tricky, like Motueka.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of like the actual like flavor impact of it, like if you put pound for pound, you know what I mean? Like,
I've got a lime lager recipe here,
yeah.
and it was 50 grams of Motueka, and it was
No,
lime.
I'm not saying you couldn't like hop it in the same quantity, but
Aye,
I feel like
it was
60
proper
60
limey.
grams of Nelson is gonna hit
Aye,
a bit harder than 60 grams of Motueka in the same recipe. Do you know, I mean, maybe maybe they're too close together
yeah,
as an example, but
two
trying to
totally
think
different
of
hops as well. But
well, you've just done the example anyway. Like your Simcoe beer was not as potent as the one with Nelson
No
and
way.
Galaxy in it, but
it was like
similar
it
quantity.
was like too diluted orange juice. Like
Yeah.
it was. You needed more squash in it, sort of thing to bring more of the kind of juice. Whereas, yeah, I think the
Yeah.
New Zealand ones hit harder, definite.
Yeah. So I mean, I talked about the West Coast Pilsner and sort of saying, oh, maybe 100 grams to be the upper limit. I'm
Yeah.
revising my statement on that because like I'm looking at most of my recipes and
They're all 150.
they're a bit higher. They're about 150
Yeah,
ish. But I mean, that's still lower than what you would typically see in a lot of modern West Coast IPAs and things like that nowadays.
true. Yeah,
But I would
250.
suppose let's say probably like 100 to 150 would probably be my sort of thoughts on that for a typical homebrew batch.
You wouldn't use wet hop products, would you? The liquid hop.
I mean, you could, and that might be something that could help you a bit with the clarity that we're going to.
I just worry that, see, in our scale, when you put one of those sachets in, like it's literally like putting tar, that sort of pine tar sort of thing, or whatever.
You're pushing up the overall quantity of hops there as well, aren't you? Because that's like 100 grams equivalent straight off the bat with one pack. So I mean,
it's quite.
I guess you need to consider that as well.
They can be quite but in your face sort of thing, and you have to balance that as well with a dry with actual hops.
It's interesting you should say that because I've actually got a West Coast Pils in the fermenter now that I've done some Mosaic Spectrum in.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen.
Okay.
I've had a sample of it, and it tastes pretty good right now.
It's a West Coast Pils.
West Coast Pilsner, yeah. And I'm going to do
wow.
a very small dry hop with some pellets as well on top of that to bring it up to about the 150-ish total. But
you can
caveat to that would be that I'd say you definitely want to make sure that you're putting that in during active fermentation so you don't get that super resiny, oily kind of like flavor that you can get with that if you just dump it in as a like a dry hop at the end of fermentation. Brett knows all about that from one of his recent beers. Read the instructions, guys, on those hop products. But yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen. That's the first time that I've used anything like that in any kind of lager, to be fair, because it's generally not. It's not something you'd think to do that with. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe you get a bottle of that as well. We wouldn't get it for next week, but at some point.
So it's got optionality, isn't it, to use that liquid hop product, potentially actually more, maybe even more so incognito or your Whirlpool liquid hop products over your dry hop liquid.
Yeah, that's a good
products.
point actually. If you're looking to, like you were saying, maybe steer clear of the dry hop to maintain that lager character. Go the incognito.
I think the big breweries can get away with it because they can go maybe a more smaller sort of percentage of the whole thing, whereas I think at our scale,
yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It can be quite hard. Like I've found that when we've used it, it's you need to basically back it up, sort of thing, to be able to balance it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. Coming back to something we mentioned before as well about combining the nobles with the modern hops, that is something I've done in a few of my recent sort of West Coast Pilsner type recipes. So I've got one here where it's like got your Magnum in for your bitterness charge at 60 minutes,
Yep.
bit of SARS, or I think the most recent one has got Tettnang.
Nice.
Love a bit of Tettnang for your sort of
Ah,
German Pilsner kind of base flavour.
definitely one of my favourites.
But either one of those is going to give you a good bit of sort of like noble, spicy kind of lager character, and then basically everything Whirlpool dry hop is then your modern hops on top of that. So that's what I've done with the one that's got the Mosaic Spectrum in it. It's Tettnang
That's
in the
Christmas.
boil, and then I put some Mosaic in Whirlpool dry hops with the Spectrum, and then going to be a little bit of Mosaic pellets in the dry hop, and I've got a random 25-gram bag of Equinox Cryo that I'm like, fuck it, might as well sling that in as well and see what happens. So
It sounds
I'm
so
breaking
weird.
my own rules already.
It sounds so weird, like going, Tettnang and Mosaic.
Yeah,
Like, when have you ever seen
sounds like a shit idea on
craft
paper,
beer
doesn't
can
it?
that's gone
Sounds amazing.
Tettnang and Mosaic?
Do you know what? You say that, but I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me well, the left-handed giant West Coast pills that I wanted to get has got Tettnang and Mosaic in it. I'm almost certain of that. But well,
Oh,
I say
nice.
that. At one point, the recipe probably has.
Yeah.
And, nowadays, every time you go back to a
To change it.
beer, they've changed the recipe. But
I
Kept the
think
name.
maybe that is maybe the future of how to get the year of lager off the ground. Is like, you've got to kind of, if you can't beat them, join them.
yeah,
Stick in some Mosaic, Citra, big hops, but let's get some noble character in there, and actually
Yeah.
two of them could play so nicely in the sandpit,
And this,
But that's one I'm going to start to experiment a bit more with, is the combination of noble hops and, aside from
Yeah.
just sort of Magnum, maybe trying to like layer in like, as you said, Tricky, layer in some Tettnang or Pearl or
no, it's
SARS?
worth
Brew
trying.
or
SARS good.
Hersbrucker or
Yeah.
SARS or whatever.
yeah.
So that's quite an exciting prospect, and I could think carefully about that. Just for
Oh,
a
no,
second.
I've got it here. Left-handed giant West Coast pills, dry hopped with Mosaic Cryo, with Tettnanger and Citra.
There you go.
Nice.
It's official.
It's
It's
official.
official.
If they're doing it, why can't we?
And that is a
Um,
great beer. So if people do see that, give that one a go. That's a really
That's
good
that's
example.
like there's a couple of more points we just wanted to make before we close this up, because we are at a little over 2 hours.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about clarity. We have touched on this already. In either one of the kind of key things we think is important to a good hoppy lager is clarity.
Yeah.
How do we achieve that? Reflecting the fact that we're toying with a lot of potential risk of not getting good clarity right.
Get a fucking bucket full of Browsol and just pour that into the keg and it.
Lots of brow sole, maybe
Speak to
lots of
Yeah.
gelatin. Although that's
But
it.
there's through the process one, you've got the, what do you call it, your protoflock, and then you could also use that. I've been using now every beer is Clarity Firm. It's the gluten-free one, isn't it? That
Yeah,
makes
that's a
beer
good shout.
gluten-free. So I use that every brew now because I love the flavour. Like recently, since I've been using that, I love my beers now. It's like, and then you don't get I find you get less of the morning after smelly farts and all that through the night. So winner.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's
But
useful to know.
that can, these things probably can help.
Yeah, I mean, particularly obviously with lagers when you're serving them super cold as well, chill haze can be a factor. So again, your process in terms of making sure you get a good hot break, cold break, chilling down as fast as you can. Protoflock in the boil is also going to help with that to drop out those proteins and stuff that can impact your chill haze. But ultimately, particularly with the ones where you are pushing the dry hopping quite a bit, you might struggle with it, and then your additional findings like your Browsol and stuff can be really helpful. I think the slower cold crash helps as well. I don't know about you, Andy. Do you think that's a benefit
I
for
haven't,
clarity as well?
So I haven't done that for IPLs recently, but like
Right.
that is now my lager.
And I mean, I think generally
method.
just because you're leaving it for longer anyway, it's not necessarily just the fact that it's ramping it down slowly, but you're
But
just gonna
Chris
be
would talk
crashing it
about
for
how
longer.
you're not freaking the yeast out as well, you know?
Yeah,
Because it's like if you
I
cold crash super quick, then you
don't
can...
know if that necessarily would impact
'Cause it excretes-
clarity.
No, but he's saying the yeast excretes, it freaks out and it excretes
Yeah.
stuff, and then...
But is that something that is going to be a clarity affecting thing, or
because
just a
then
flavour
then
thing?
it'll... No, I
just-
think
just-
clarity, yeah, it could be, yeah.
Your chill haze is actually yeast shit that it's just crapped out. 'cause you
Shat itself, yeah, when
froze
you
it.
cold crashed it too
chilled
quick.
it down too quick. I don't know. Maybe probably need a yeast expert on to clarify that clarity question. Boom.
Yeah.
I mean, I started watching a YouTube webinar would be the right term. Around, I think it was around lager brewing. I can't remember which who put it out. It was really getting into some of the yeast science around how to achieve clarity. Broadly speaking, about this kind of perfect window of kind of somewhere between maybe it wasn't just lager, but between 10 and 14 degrees was sort of where yeast starts to produce the necessary enzymes for clarity. I think it was enzymes. I could be talking shit. I'm going to have to go back and study again and watch it again. But it was really getting into the sort of science of how to achieve clarity. It was also talking a bit about the graduated soft crashing of beers and not crashing them too quickly, because you actually accelerate right through that temperature window.
Holy
where yeast is actually able to help to clarify the beer. So it's an interesting observation just around the relationship of yeast to clarification of the beer. I also find the YouTube webinar and share it in the chat. So I'll see if I can find it now. I actually haven't finished watching all of it, but from what
Sounds something like
did
Fermentus
watch
with the...
was really good.
Lallemand, maybe.
I don't think
One
it was
of the two.
Lallemand.
Or Fermentus, no.
I'll see if I can find it.
There was... I remember during COVID, they started doing loads of
Put it in the
seminars that we could get access to. Obviously, they invite breweries in real life now, but back then, everything was open and there was loads of seminars going that you could sign up for.
Yeah.
It was really good. But yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
But otherwise, let me not distract
Should
you
we-
with my...
Should we talk about yeast options then?
Yeah. Any thoughts?
Well,
standard lager yeast options, right? I'm not even sure that's much of a debate. Is there better ones for hoppy lagers?
there used to be.
Wow.
So, do you want highly attenuating yeast or lower attenuating
I think
yeast?
you generally want, again, coming back to the, you want a crisp, snappy,
Well-
dry lager base. You want a fairly well attenuating yeast.
Why was hopping pills labelled hopping pills yet with the attenuate down to 10-12?
Well, because they
that's a
believed
point.
that yeast interacted with hops in a way that would... I think it was essentially kind of like a thiol type thing, where it was
Okay.
that particular yeast had fairly high enzymatic activity in terms of converting
So
like,
we're saying
thiol
Oktoberfest
precursors. Yeah, it's just one of those random things. But actually,
secret sauce.
there's this kind of comes back to something that I wasn't aware of initially when I started using this yeast, but the 2124 or equivalent to the Vine Stefana 3470 is actually supposedly quite prolific in terms of that enzyme which converts. So it is a really clean yeast. It is, you know, good at giving you that sort of like crispy boy dry finish and all the rest of it. But actually I think one of the reasons why I've always found that it just works really, really well with New Zealand Pilsners and other kind of hoppy lagers is it actually does have some interaction with the hops in terms of that kind of like file character. And we're not talking like it's going to give you that massive file impact that the specific fileized yeast will give you. But there is a... Hang on. I've looked at this yesterday, but let me see if I can find where it is. But there is a graph from White Labs which actually shows the relative like enzyme activity for some of their different yeasts, and I think their equivalent of that yeast strain, which is like WLP 830, I think, has got like super high beta lyase activity compared to the other strains. So basically like your California ale or Chico yeast is like really low, doesn't really interact with them in that sense. It's a super clean yeast, so it will let the hops, you know, present nicely on top of that, but the yeast itself is not going to kind of interact with them particularly, basically, is what it's saying. Hang on, I think I've got it. Let me put this up on the screen for the benefit of the people watching live. Where is it? There it is. So for the benefit of people watching live, that graph there shows a range of White Labs yeasts.
Yeah.
And basically these bars here, I forgot what the proper name for this type of graph is.
That's a whisker plot.
Well done, Owen.
Nice one, Owen. So the sort of width or the vertical height of the bar is kind of like the range of values. Is that right, Owen?
Yeah, so like the line in the middle of the bar will be your median.
Yeah.
And the upper blocks are your upper and lower quartiles. And then the whiskers are essentially your kind of outliers.
Yeah. So this is basically sort of like a range of the White Labs yeast, so you can see all the numbers down the bottom there. So you've got California Ale right at the start. That would be like your Fuller's yeast there, and so on and so forth. But the one that, and this was done in terms of being able to compare it to their Tropicale yeast blend, which is their non-GMO fialized yeast. But the one that was the highest out of all of those tested was WLP 830, which is your Vine Stefana, German lager yeast, which is a slightly surprising and confounding result, because I would have never thought of it prior to that, as that maybe being one of the reasons why it works really well with hoppy beers. But there you go. So 3470, WLP 830, or 2124, which supposedly are all the same yeast strain, have very high beta lyase enzyme activity, which basically means they can interact with bound files in hops, of which I believe Nelson and similar New Zealand varieties are quite high in. So it can just basically give them a bit of a boost.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah, a few other ones on there. I think there's a couple of the Belgian yeast strains which are quite active, but otherwise most of them are sort of, you know, obviously relative to what you've got there, fairly low level. So
what's the yeast strain that has the super weird result, that has like no bar but has like ridiculous ranges?
Well, this one here in the middle.
Yeah.
WLP 300. Not sure what that is. That's probably something weird, like a Berliner Weiss or something, is it?
It's a Hefeweizen yeast.
Hefeweizen.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
It's kind of hard to understand this graph because you're kind of not quite sure what the bars are kind of showing you. I'm struggling to understand that result for WLP 300
Yeah.
SH45.
I'm not sure how that works.
unless it represents a very, very small sample, maybe, i.e. a sample of 3, whereas like we've got 3 results. You can't really derive a median.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, it's odd.
But anyway, it's an interesting bit of info
So,
there. But
There's
yeah.
a new fermentus lager yeast called SH45, Liam's saying, for Hoppy lagers.
All right. Yeah, okay.
Soft lager SH45.
Let's check it
That's
out.
interesting.
45
Full aromatic
yeast.
potential of their hops, resulting in lager beers that burst with tropical fruit and citrus notes. Stands out for ability to enhance the aromatic compounds from raw materials, particularly hops, by unlocking the power of thiols.
Yeah.
Ah, right,
So it's
okay.
basically a file releasing lager yeast. But as
Sweet.
Tricky just
Yeah.
highlighted, is that actually just
Rebadge
fermented version
3470.
of whatever yeast it was? Which yeast strain was it, Tricky?
So on that graph, it was the WLP 830, but that's basically their
Fine stuff. I know.
equivalent of Weihenstephaner.
So 3470.
Yeah.
Which should be 3470, but maybe their new version is even more file active than what that is.
Yeah, maybe.
But I mean, for me, it's kind of like, well, that's always worked really well for me with hoppy lagers, and maybe that's part of the reason it does. So I won't be changing to anything else anytime soon, to be honest.
I just
No,
bought
I-
a shit. I bought was it 100 grams from the malt miller of Einstein, so I think I'll be using that for the next few batches of lager.
Sounds like you sorted, Andy. You sorted for the
Yeah.
next couple of
Next
couple of years.
Nah, 100 grams, especially in a 46 litre batch, that should be. I'll get through that.
That's
in
about 5
3.
brews.
Is it 5? It's 40. No, what do you use? You normally use about 40 grams or so. Do you not per double batch? So that's about two and a bit.
Yeah, put 2 in a bit. You want to get 500 gram Brit, mate.
Ugh.
Sort yourself out.
Oh,
Very good.
yeah.
What?
Done that a few times.
Are we ready to wrap up, guys?
I think we
Yeah.
should start
Hoppy
wrapping it up.
lagers.
Yeah,
Justice.
Definitely.
Sweet.
Very
So
good.
we talk about next episode
Yep.
Q&A. So I'll put out a post, probably Monday, and start to pull in all your questions you guys have got. So, and we'll do a Q&A. Why not? Should be a good laugh. They're normally quite good, those episodes as well.
Yeah. So we're gonna next weekend, Saturday 8th of November, we're gonna be doing a Q&A episode.
Yep. So send your questions in advance, or tune in live and ask us during the show, but preferably in advance. so we've
Yeah, I'll
got a
do it in
chance to
advance. Get a chance to research.
actually find out if we've got a reasonable answer to the questions.
Yep, because we'll do a planning call Wednesday as well, so probably pre-Wednesday, and then that way we can get them loaded in the planning.
Yep.
Yeah. So let us know. Let us know. We will enjoy answering all your extremely in-depth questions. So we'll be putting it out on to our Patreons as well, on our Discord channel. So if there's any interest in coming to join as a Patreon, you can find us at patreon.com/the Hop Edition. Come join us. You can join the Discord chat, which would be great. Listen, if you fancy it, feel free to post and tag us on social media. Just share us what you're drinking, what you're homebrewing, what are you enjoying around beer, anything fun. Post there, that'll be fun. I'm sure Andy will get back to you. And then finally, just stay tuned for the next episode of the Hop Edition. You'll see that on our social media sites on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Finally, coming to the after party, we have posted a link to the after party in case you have not come to the after party before. It is just a friendly chat over an extra beer, all around home brewing. It is good fun. So if you fancy it, just come and join that and enjoy. So,
Nice one.
Nice.
episode
127
in the bag.
Yeehaw.
Woohoo!
Adios.
All right,
Cool.
cheers everyone. See
See
you
you
on the
later.
next one. Bye.